Hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. If you are geeking out about new tools and ideas, this one is for you. Today's episode is with someone who brings a lot of fun, energy, and curiosity into the data space. Mehdi Ouazza, also known as Mehdi. I already talked with Mehdi a few times, once on a live stream on my YouTube channel. He is a data engineer, a developer advocate at Mother Duck, but that is not the focus today. And he's always building and sharing something interesting. From DuckDB to quirky side projects like voice-controlled SQL with duck sounds, yes, really. He makes technical work feel playful and approachable. All right, let's get into it. Hey, Mehdi, how's it going?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. So it's a pleasure to come around your channel.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We had the pleasure of talking together, I think last year, right? We did last year something where we talked a lot about DuckDB.
Yes.
And before we also talked
Yes, I think
once.
we talked about one of my side projects, which was to get insight on job offers, basically.
Yeah,
Which was a project that was killed, and I put it back, and actually I think it's killed again. It's mostly on dependency, but yeah, the whole idea was to basically extract what are the required technical skills from job offers. And I think you shared that on social, and someone said, "Yeah, but that's actually Mehdi that built that." So it's always funny when you like that just tell me that I'm really bad at branding some of my side projects, right? If people share them, but there's not obvious that it's coming from me. So yeah,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I use that in the coaching,
yeah.
because to show people like that's the things that you need to focus on, and there was no mention of you in the whole thing.
No, no,
So,
no. But I think I solved that. I get this piece as a feedback, right? I
yeah,
improve for other things, but yeah.
yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, last time we talked about DuckDB, so we actually prepared stuff for this podcast. And I thrown everything overboard because this would have also been like a DuckDB thing.
Yeah,
Let's just talk like about what's going on. I saw you went to Zurich.
yeah.
I saw the something quack to SQL that you're working on.
It's super interesting, like to have your view because you're pretty active online, right? And so it's a everyone I feel has a different feed of what they see from me, also depending on their interests, I believe, what's the
Mm,
resonates, like what they remember. But it's funny that you did remember this one. I have a fun fact about this one. I
okay.
just learned that actually Google is working on a dolphin model. So,
Mhm.
but this is not a joke. This is basically because dolphin is, creating specific wave sounds. So this can produce. So they creating a model to communicate with dolphin. Um,
Okay.
and so it was so funny because someone from Google announced that, was speaking about that at the meetup, and I was like, I actually did like the quack to SQL where you quack and you get the SQL query generated, but that was a joke, right? And so just to realize that there is actually people working on specific model to actually understand and talk to animals, that's pretty wise.
Yeah. Can you explain a bit to people what the quack to
Yeah,
SQL thing
yeah.
was?
Do you wanna share my screen? I think it's
Well, we put it as a podcast, so it's not really
I see. I see. I
people
see.
can't really see it.
Because I can quack in real
Or,
time. So let's
just share it. We're trying to let. Then we need to talk through it. One sec. I
yeah.
think you can share your screen
Yeah,
really
I can share
quickly.
and I can talk to for people listen
Yeah,
up. I think that's still quack to SQL.
so that's the bonus for everybody who's watching this
Exactly.
on YouTube.
I think this is by the way an April Fool, which is completely over engineered, but it's
Yeah.
a fun story because people are asking. So the first so if you go to mother.com/quack to SQL, so quack to SQL like you would type it, you get into this page where you have first a request to download a model, which is about 200 megabytes. So it's still quite something. So if I click on download and start, it's going to load a local model, which is a Whisper model. And it's run using Transformer.js, and it's run in the browser. So this means that now if I'm disconnecting from internet, the model is still working. And what this model is doing is translating in real time speech to text.
But we need to say, so for everybody who's listening, so you have the website on the left, there's a field, or there's a frame that says duck input, with a quackometer.
Exactly.
And you see the audio things.
Yeah, you see the audio wave now that I'm talking, waves, and you see it. And now if I'm going to press record on that, we're going to see the speech to text happening. So if I'm talking now, it's going to put, in real time, the speech to text. This is happening locally. Really? This is happening in the browser. There is no cloud server cost involved. If I'm disconnecting to internet, it works. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to have really low latency with this thing where people have to quack. So now if I say quack, hopefully it's going to work. Quack. It's not working, so that's the live demo. Quack.
Yeah, I think it was behind.
Yeah. Quack. So I'm going to stop. Let me refresh the page. So now, by the way, now that I refresh the page, normally the model is not downloaded twice, but just once. Quack. Quack. All right. So now it's detecting my quack. And basically, as the number of quack I get some part of the SQL query that's getting typed, right? And so you have a quackometer, so now it's detecting 4 quack. Okay. And every time it's you see is increasing. So there is a level meters, and every time I do a quack, it's increasing, and it's writing.
And on the output, for everybody who's listening, on the output you see then SQL output. You see the SQL command.
Yeah. And so, if of course the SQL is completely random generated, it's actually a real SQL, and there is like a Easter egg behind it. So there was like people could run it and earn something. So, so that was the end game. But yeah, that was a really fun April Fool. And just to come back to the technical thing, aside, of being fun, is that it's really a good example that you can mix. Still, there is a lot of opportunity for data engineers to mix basically local models like this with a web application. Here, I'm doing speech to text, so I don't see clear directly use case for data engineers, but you could use a text to SQL model that's run in the browser, right? There is nothing compute on local. It's small text to SQL that, as you type, will correct your SQL, instead of like you run it and then you say, hey, there is an error here, and everything is processed locally, so no cloud costs. So this is Transformer.js. It's really in some project. And something I forget to mention. I actually wrote a full blog post about it. But one thing that's making the thing so smooth is thanks to WebGPU. Are you familiar with WebGPU?
No.
So WebGPU is basically a new. Actually, I can share it to you. Something.
Let's just talk through it.
I can share it to you with another URL. Okay, so
send this to me. We're going to add this to the description.
Yeah, so this is a blog. I did like kind of like a deep dive. Do I have a chat here? I'll share it. I'll share it for you. So the bottom line is that WebGPU is basically an evolution of an old API for browser to tap into directly your GPU. Okay. So that if you want to leverage your GPU for model training and so on, you need to have specific, if you, for example, using an NVIDIA card, you need to have specific drivers, right?
Yeah.
and you need
True.
to compile your course that is compatible with these graphic cards, right? So
Yeah.
there is a lot of overhead. I talked about that in this blog, which basically look a bit like this. So if you want to develop an app that's relying on GPU, there is a lot of stuff to consider. And WebGPU
Yeah.
is basically an API. It's kind of like the JavaScript, shortcuts to directly you write JavaScript and you get access to the GPU
Okay,
because you
that's
go
nice.
through the browser, and so the browser is the interface to tap directly into your GPU, and so the quack to SQL model use that, and that's why it's so smooth, it's so powerful, because it's leveraged the GPU. And web GPU is pretty recent, it's there for about a year in most of the browser. But if you
Uh-huh.
look at this, yeah, I'm actually on another page. Wait, I'm gonna share. If I go, for example, this is a ocean simulation using a web GPU, and you see how smooth it is. It's everything
Yeah.
is running locally, tapping using my GPU, but I'm just accessing a web page, right?
Yeah.
So you
And
could,
we
yeah,
for everybody on the podcast, so we're seeing basically the waves
yeah, it's wave
going back and
simulation,
forth, and it is smooth. I
yeah.
mean, but you're right. Maybe.
And so you can
Well,
imagine you could build entire game, like really, AAA game, where you just go to an URL, you don't have anything to install, and everything is within the browser and using your local GPU, right?
nice.
And so I think web GPU is basically an underrated technology that can enable a lot of things for data engineers. Like you could imagine, for example, that if you say someone, oh, you have to, if you want to run this data pipeline, you need to install Python locally, right? But
Yeah.
what if actually you could just go to a web page and it's actually using full your CPU and GPU? There is a bit of that with WebAssembly, but
Mhm.
nothing really leveraging your actually web GPU compute, data processing, sorry, through web GPU is not really there yet. But there is really a ton of opportunity with this, underrated API integration on browser, basically.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, this would actually be a cool thing. A few weeks back, I was thinking of like, it would be cool to create like a data engineering game. Like
Yes. Do you want?
to
So actually, I saw your post. I want to work on this. I had actually no. I had this idea. Actually, I yeah. I forget to text you about that, because I had actually this idea. I already have like a story script for that, and then I
okay.
think your message came a bit later, and I've been chatting with people. And the reason why I want to build that is that, in my content and my process of teaching to people, I'm always trying to be fun, and I feel like we don't have games for adults to learn. And I agree that
Yeah.
sometimes you need to sit down and there is complex things to learn, right? But I do believe like our learning process is not enough like gamify in some way. I think
Yeah.
Duolingo, for
It's
example,
true.
learning language, they do that pretty well. And yeah, I do see opportunity over there, but it required quite some times. I want to go behind the basic of like just running SQL to solve a crime, but really have like a gaming interface. Yeah.
Like I was thinking this as a day of an engineer, and you, like, how was that game called where you, that was, it was popular a year ago, where you were these blobs and you were walking around, and one and two of them were actually working together uh to kill all the others. And how is that called? Ah,
Was that a PC game?
I think it was on PC, but also on others, like where you were the imposter. And
Yeah. Come on. What
how,
it
how
was?
we,
Yeah. No, it's not Imposter. Among Us. Among Us.
Among Us, yeah.
Jesus.
So I was thinking like you have this, and where you go to stations, and then the game pops out,
Yes,
and then you
I have
you
that.
can
Oh,
do the
yeah,
game,
yeah.
and when the boss comes, then you have to hide. Like you can hide in the toilet. So
When your
so
stakeholder is coming, you are high.
so that they don't fuck everything up and load additional stuff onto you.
Yeah,
So, but then I realized like I'm no game developer,
yeah.
and I
But
was looking at game developing is quite hard, and the tools are not that beginner friendly.
it's getting much easier. I think that's why I would like to try to build it, because now it's like in between. I do believe like in 2 years, a lot of people is gonna be able, like, you can build this game with just prompts. I believe today you need to kind of like put the pieces together, but it's still
Mm.
doable. I was just hearing a podcast of Guillermo from Vercel, the CEO. He was mentioning a really interesting thoughts with unbundle ChatGPT. So AI, so V0, you know a bit V0 from Vercel, you can generate a front end, a landing page
Mm.
basically. And so it's AI for web developers. We have Christoph, which is building now, which is an IDE for data engineers. And so this is AI for data engineers. And so there is like a lot of use cases. And to coming back to the game dev point, I'm sure they're gonna be a platform. It's like AI for game development, right? And
Mm.
it's basically an interface, which means for a noob like you and me to build, game, and with some knobs, um, like creating assets is going to go to generate image and so on, but your game engine. Today is possible, but it just require a bit more research. But I do think it's going to arrive pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope so. Because I think you are absolutely right. The We don't have enough like this gamification content. And I was thinking a lot about this from a perspective of I have my academy, I have the coaching program, but what I see more and more is that the attention spans of people are getting shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yes.
And you're creating a course and it's a half an hour long of video stuff, people are not going through it, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
why? I'm doing the best I can to make it short and precise, and I'm baking everything in, but it's not interactive. It's people are
Yeah.
looking for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think you probably have more attention when it's like a cohort live, right? People can get focus, but
Yeah, but then it's also then they're hearing
yeah.
you.
Yeah, there is
I
no
might ask some
interactivity, a
questions.
lot
Yeah,
less interactivity.
and both things together you can't do. You can't just have a cohort where somebody teaches you something and then you do hands-on stuff, and then you're slower than a few other people, then the other people have to wait, and if you're too slow,
Yeah.
then everybody else moves ahead, or if you're fast you're bored, then it's
Yeah.
uh,
No, I understand. No, I totally agree. I mean, eh, that's basically the essence on how I do my content, is that people find it fun. So there is like an entertainment, which is, it's not like a gamify where they interact, but
mm,
this piece of entertainment and information, there is a lot of like, there's still like a lot of controversy about that, because I've seen people pushing back to say you cannot learn, complex foundational problem, like that should be hard and boring. There is no way around it. But I think there is an in between, because I think
yeah.
it's true that like you can do like small bits of exercise in a fun way, and then maybe if you need to learn like really, good foundational concept, that's going to take time, is going to be a bit more painful. And I think it's the secrets is probably on how can you mix the, both sides to
Mm.
still entertaining.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Some theoretical stuff will be boring, but I don't know. Like you can always cut it together, make a bunch of individual lessons or individual topics out of it.
Yeah,
And
but
who says it just needs to be one game? Can be multiple mini games, right? It's
yeah.
just
Also, I think it's really cultural. So I do think, and you probably can share your thoughts on that, but depending on the culture, some people actually don't like the fluff. They like boring information. And I think if you see in the Indian culture on YouTube, like
Mhm.
the traction that some, technical Indian video gets and how it is produced, it is really, really boring, but people are following up. And I think it's a question also of on how people can focus and and cultural. I agree that there is a general, shorten of attention span, right,
Mm.
happening, but I do think there is still like um, a culture difference, or just a personal preference at the end.
Yeah, it also depends on the individual because we learn different.
Yeah,
Right? Some people are good. They look at a video from us and they learn from the video, and then that's how they do. Others say, "Oh man, leave me alone with videos. I just need to have it written down in a PDF, and I go through it, and that's it. And
yeah, yeah,
I learn this way." But yeah, it's it. Some with some videos, I'm surprised. Like, okay, I would not have done it this way. Like half an hour, one video where you just see the screen and they're they're talking through everything. Huh?
yeah. But it's yeah. Sometimes it's really works. I think it's as you said, like everybody has different ways of learning. I don't think I'm not sure if as our role as educator is to kind of like please everybody, or rather
Mm,
do our own style, assuming that there are going to be other people teaching in different way, and that should be your, your mark of fabric to say, yes, that's fine if you don't enjoy how I'm teaching, but yeah, because I do feel like people are more engaged if they're emotionally engaged with you, like in the sense they enjoy just your content, your personality. I think I was like that for me, back at the university with some teacher, right? It's like there is some teacher you can just feel it. It's
yeah,
no matter how they teach, and others, like it's not about their tone or their written material. It's like a global thing. And so I do think online is kind of the same. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I also have my own style. Sometimes I like one of the guys that I really like is, and I have to say he's doing an awesome job. Is Dashil Pamar.
Yeah.
He's doing a really really good job. The only thing, like, I don't like the style of videos. I don't want to create that style where there's stuff flying in all the time and the screen is
Yeah.
shifting and so on, which is for me, it's I know it would most likely the video would work better if I do that
Yes.
kind of things, but that's not what I want to create.
Yeah.
That and I think that is something you have to just learn. Okay, that is my style, and that is not my style.
And again, it's depending on, like, how you want to do it, why you are doing it, right, and how much you agree to kind of skip on those views and potential lead. Is I think it's fine. Darshil actually started really to take off when he hired an editor to those video, because he's not editing those video anymore. But um I think, I mean, just a bit before, but yeah, thumbnail also same thing. I think he started. You can see I'm looking at his channel right now, a bit of
Mhm.
the history. But I remember because I chatted with him and I pinged him and I said, no, I started. Um, but what is funny is that, so like the paradox is that if I look at his more popular video, some of that are actually before he kind of like hired this video editor, which which is interesting. It means like, does it matter, or is actually like the increasing of production and style, just increase the traffic on the other video. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a quick side story. So I'm a huge like car enthusiast, and
Oh yeah, I saw
I
that. I know the story you're gonna tell. I know the
no,
story
no, most
because I'm
likely not. But
sneaking on all the YouTube channels. So I know that you're guilty, and you on your data engineering channel there is a popular car video. That
no, that's not it. That's true, man. This stupid video that I've done is the most popular video on my whole channel from my Tesla. No, but what I want to say is, um, I regarding the hiring an editor,
yeah.
because I watch one channel, and that's a US channel, Cletus McFarland channel, where they are basically the gist of it is they are building race cars, they're racing the quarter mile, something the
Yeah.
engine is toast, and then they rebuild it, and then they build stuff, and so on and so on. And they have, I don't know how many million followers they have right now, and he's still editing every video himself,
Yes.
because he says like, this is my style and
Mm-hmm.
I need to be in the process. And I've seen basically a video from where he was talking about this, and he made the decision to specifically not hire an editor,
Yeah.
because that is what he likes to do and what he
Yeah.
wants to do, and then he has full control over everything.
Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Casey Neistat do also that, the New York YouTuber. Well,
I actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure with Casey, because I've watched him a lot, and I think that was BS. I think
no,
that
I
was
don't. I
BS.
don't.
I
And
think so.
if you know the story and how it worked also with Dan, what's his name again?
Yeah, but that
Dan
was a
Mace.
wreck.
Yeah, but the thing is that Dan said like it's impossible to get into his head, and like if you see the type of content, if you're like he's working with an editor, it like the editor is probably gonna be crazy. So I do think like there, like maybe if you don't trust that one, there is tons of example where I think there is the case where you can scale
Yeah.
and still doing your the edit if you enjoy. I think for our case, I do that, but I do think the I could get an editor because the added value of my edit for technical content where I have a screen share and so on is much less than, if you have a story or a vlog. There's much more dimension, I would say, to play. There's still a lot of dimension to play, but I think I could hire someone to help me on that.
I made the shift in the past, I don't know, half year, to move to scripted content
Yeah.
with the teleprompter.
Yes.
And it's interesting because you can prepare the content better, and record it faster, but the editing overhead gets larger. You need to edit a lot more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For me, that's the other way around, because
For
I
me,
have my script, so I have basically no failure in the recording. So yeah.
But then you have to do the overlays. You have to edit the basically everything that I have shown always on the screen. I now need to edit in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is what drives time up.
Yes. So I do in between. So if I do a live where I share stuff, I just script the main points. And if I'm talking theory or some stuff, then I'm just doing full scripted.
Nice.
Because otherwise, indeed, like just putting every like live coding and so on after a scripted video. But we are going so far more further from data, right?
Well, that is absolutely true. So I saw, as I said in the beginning, yesterday I saw you were at a meetup in Switzerland. So, like, that was a Google meetup, right? What
It
is
was
that?
it's a local community called Applied AI, and I basically just put the dots together and reach out to some contact at Google to say, hey, there is a local community. Would you up to be organizing an event? And I have a couple of speakers, data
Mhm.
engineer Simon Spatty, I think you know, and others.
Yeah. I
Uh,
actually recorded a podcast with him. It's coming out
oh yeah, yeah,
next
yeah,
week,
that's
I
true.
think.
He told me that. So yeah, that was basically the whole story. And yeah, it was really great to have like such a good crowd, mix it around AI, data engineering, and yeah, that's I
Okay.
think I think the main takeaway is that it's really interesting on those meetups. I used to have meetups that are really people are really technical, and here like to those kind of meetups it's usually 50-50 because the technical barrier to entry is also a bit lower, right?
Mm.
So someone really good at Excel, for example, can build an app with Lovable or bolt.new, right? And show something valuable at those kind of meetups, right? um, so I think that's just there's pro and cons, right? It's good for variety, but it's also hard then for speakers. You know, some people are not going to understand a word because it's going too deep, right?
Mm.
And if you're staying too high level, then some people are going to get bored. So I think that's the main challenge versus like just a pure, I would say, data meetup or even Python meetup.
But are you really going to the meetup for the talks or for the before and after the talks?
Yeah, that's a great
That's because
question. I think um, both are interesting. I think like I've been talking a lot to also at events, and I think as a speaker, uh, I think it's a really good exercise. Sometimes I have a topic and I'm like, I should write about this, or I haven't do a video about this, and like having to speak as a meetup can like put me a deadline, like accountable.
mm,
So I think like there is two sides, right? There is from speaker side, there is a lot of value, and also like I've been recording all the meetup I've been hosting, and put it on appropriate channels if it's data or DuckDB related. And just to give you an example, there is a video has been we recorded a meetup 2 years ago. There was 30 people in Belgium, and to this day has 27,000 views and is still doing like in top 10 of videos every month, and it's
oh,
just a
nice.
talk from someone. But it's really great. Like that's I think what people miss on the organizer is that it's not so much effort to do basic recording, and if you publish, you just as a speaker you put effort into preparing a presentation that you can share, right? Or just revisit at some point. So that's why I do believe like those kind of local meetups are really great, either as a speaker or as just an attendee to
Mm.
and to meet people. But yeah, just to answer your question, it's definitely if there is Aaron talk that are that interesting, it's always nice to connect with a few people. I've done that multiple time in Berlin where actually I want to have a lunch with someone, it doesn't work, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to that meetup, would you join? Or the other way around and say sure. So like the main actually event is just to connect with that
Yeah,
person, and yeah, we're there.
that's. I think that's also some. I'm moving. I'm going sometimes to meetups as well here in our area, and that's the before and the after is always very, especially the after is always very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me it's a bit difficult because I'm living here in the Bavarian no man land, so it's not like.
Yes. No, I think like if you've been to San Francisco, that's like also the vibe are different, but there is something every night. Like you can literally like there is a hack that someone literally told me, like if you don't want to pay food in the evening, you just go to every single
Good to
night
meet up.
to a meetup. And there is really food grabbers, and also like the no show rate, so between people registering and not, is huge, because there is huge competition and people just like, yeah, there is. But I noticed, for example, in Berlin, that's uh, Germany has a really good no show rate, in a sense, like people are actually commuting, like train or whatsoever, and they're coming if they register. I think there is a cultural aspect of it. But also, yeah, that's something I learned, is that depending on the city and culture, you can have from 10 to 50% no show rate. Yes, it's pretty crazy.
We have a local analytics data and analytics meetup here in Würzburg, where I live. It's just 20 minutes from me. But they always book it they put this on Meetup a week ahead, and always on a date where I have something already planned. It's like, it's so frustrating. But let me quickly check, because I think I had something also else written down I wanted to ask you, but I forgot to put this pull this up one sec. I know that was it. Yeah. So the meetups.
How are you using AI with data engineering today? I have a question for you if you don't have a question.
For me, not that much. For me, because I'm not working in production environments, I don't use something like Cursor or whatever. For me, it's always when I create courses.
Okay.
I'm trying to like get new angles of what I could put in there. I'm trying to trying to improve the curriculum that I have in mind. But I'm a ChatGPT guy.
Okay.
I'm using ChatGPT.
But like,
So
you ask it for code snippets, or like,
sometimes I use it for this kind of snippets. For instance, I've built a RAG project that's coming in the academy. I think next month, and where I first tried to extensively say, okay, I want to build this. I want to, and that's actually a topic right down, or a project right down your alley, because it also uses DuckDB.
yeah.
Well, now that's a semantic search one that uses on the one side DuckDB and on the other side Qtrend.
Okay.
And I'm sending in log messages.
Yeah.
To then use DuckDB just for the typical aggregations and visualizations, and then have Qtrend for the actual semantic search. And that kind of thing, to just start. And this is a new topic for me as well, the whole GenAI and semantic search and so on, and to say, okay, get me started, right? I have that idea. I want to build this, and I want to prepare this for my students. Let's get me started. Give me code for this part. Give me code for this part, and just get going. And I think it's for me, it's really beneficial, because when I think, yes, you can. Everybody can do this. You can go in there, but I can prepare this, and then a student can go through this in half an hour, or they can use the 6, 7 hours or 8 hours that I'm just working on the code, working on the concept with it. In comparison, it's a big time saver if I prepare this and think about it and try it out. And
I think
so that's for me.
I think it's getting better, but ChatGPT needs also to know you, and kind of like a profile, and basically, if you have a curriculum, you have assumption on who your students are, which is different than jumping into ChatGPT and asking a question directly. So I think that's the work that basically kind of like done, is always translating the information to the adapted audience, and for that you need context. So I think that's
it's also like these systems, they're very often giving you way too much. and they make it too complicated. And for me, is always I try to boil it down and make it also from a language wise as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's it, it's a bit too easy, too simple, because I don't like to use these this like technical language. That's how I am. Um, but that, I think that is a very important point. Not just knowing the audience, but also thinking about, okay, how do I want to present this? What topics do I want to focus on,
Yeah.
and pushing out the stuff that we say, oh no, that's not
Yeah.
that's not that important.
No, I think it's just it's always about having the context as human. For me, I've been using a lot Cursor, and I think there is a lot of opportunity with like MCP, especially for data engineers. So there is a MCP DuckDB, and so basically what happens is that you give the AI a DuckDB local runtime where it can do stuff. And I think, especially when you start the pipeline, there is always a EDA phase, or a phase of exploration, where you just need to look at the data, do a few queries. And so the problem in that is that if you say to the AI, okay, generate me a pipeline for this, it's basically making a lot of assumption on the data. And with like an MCP DuckDB, or there is an MCP for Supabase if your data is on Postgres, you can do a system prompt to say, hey, whenever I ask question about the data, feel free to collect all the schema from the table. You have access to the MCP, right? A simple system prompt like this. And so the next time we'll do a question, it's basically going to do describe table and so on. And I've done a few run, and it works really nice if you tie this to your database or your data. I'm using big DuckDB obviously because it works also for BotherDuck, and our data is there. But then it does like describe and so on, and it creates clear schema and so on. Or if I do it in Python, Pythontic. I love to work with Pythontic, and everything is already correct because he had the metadata schema. And something that actually Supabase did recently is that on their interface, on the UI, you can directly do a copy SQL from the whole database, like in one button, and then you get the schema. So you can copy paste that into an LLM. But it's just to show that I do believe, like, if you can inject automatically schema, which is better context when writing data pipeline, that helps a lot than rather manual work at the beginning.
What do you like? What do you think about? Because we see this online all the time. Like, okay, I put all the code project in it, and I said refactor it or clean this up, and then it deleted or made it beautiful and nothing works, or it deleted that kind of stuff and nothing worked anymore. Like, do you see a problem with stuff like Cursor
I
in that
think
area?
it's mostly because people are not technical enough, and they complain they are in between, or they are technical enough, but they're they're making assumption on what the LLMs is capable to do. So, for example, if like a simple thing is like, add me a test for this project, okay? Add me a test on something. Sometimes, if you don't specify the test framework, maybe it's going to say, oh, okay, it hasn't scanned your repo, for example. You have to index it. It's going to say, okay, I'm going to use this testing framework, and so you have to install this package. It's like, wait a minute. I already have a testing framework. I'm using this. So why do you install another testing framework, right? And so, like, from a technical engineer would say, look, that's BS. Like, it's not respecting. But if you guide a minimum, this limit, you can say, hey, this project is using this stack, I don't know, Flask API with PyTest framework. So that's just the basic information. You index your repo. the next time you're going to ask for a test is not going to to go there. So you see, it's like there is experience just on knowing the limitation and guiding the LLMs. And I think that's where most of the frustration comes from. And I think you've seen that online, like people saying it has deleted three weeks worth of project, and you're like, you haven't get it anything. So that's that's the problem. It's like people jump into things and they say, okay, this thing works. No, it's still software engineers. It generate codes. So yeah, I think that's a bit the main problem today, is that it's great because it's lowered the technical barrier to entry and everybody can do that. But a lot of people take wrong assumption, like you would if you meet a stakeholder, and you say, yeah, can you ingest that data, every minute? And, you know, um, but you as a human, as a data engineer, say, wait a minute, why do you need that? You realize the imply of cost of the pipeline running, and then the stakeholder say, oh, yes, but now this person to challenge is not there anymore, right? So the stakeholder asking to run the pipeline every minute, like the AI will just do it and it would just burn your credit card. Then who is to blame?
Yeah,
So,
true. Is that also a vibe coding issue?
yeah,
That people have no idea what they're doing. They're just
yeah. I think so. I think we're gonna for me, vibe coding is a great thing, but again, the problem is like the overselling is like with any hype, right? It's like we've seen some security stuff issue, and then some platforms saying, oh, there is huge leak and so on, you should guide your users. And so then there is like the question, is the responsibility of the platform to make all those things secure, or the developers? Because at the end of the day, right, the developers can ask anything, right? And if it doesn't know what it doesn't know, then it can make things insecure. Like that, it's always going to happen. Like, of course the platform can help guide and kind of do a frame, but for me, to some extent, it's I feel a bit sad that there is some platform fighting around that, because I think there is also a question just of education to the person itself, rather than fixing whatever platform can do.
That's true. Very, very often, if you understand what it does, and you understand, I said, you understand the limitations,
Yeah.
and the let's say the variables, then it's okay. But if you're going in blind and making a bunch of assumptions,
Yes.
problematic.
And I think the vibe coding courses and so on are great, like for like kids. Like seriously, like those courses are I mean, or entrepreneur, right, that like doesn't care to fail. But for kids, I think they are great, because you can say, do anything, as long as you don't have my credit cards, and play around, kind of understand what you can build with just English. But I think it's oversell to too many people, without saying like you don't need to know the software engineers anymore. I don't think it's neither true. It's not that you should know, but I think there is a in between. Yeah, there is a gray area, and I think this is where we are at right now. Is that this gray area is not clear. How much technical things I actually need to know.
Some people also say, AI will replace data engineers. We will no longer need data engineers.
I think that's so. Again, to the podcast, I heard from Guillermo from Vercel. He talked about, and actually it's from Karpathy, the person that was in charge at OpenAI and before at Tesla. He talked about software 2.0, and software 1.0 is basically you have programming language that you code. Software 2.0, you just express what you need, and it's less deterministic, right? Because it's depending on the interpretation. But you're still gonna need people to build those stuff. right? So to coming back initially, like if you need to build the AI for game dev, you still need game developers to build the platform to back up all of that, right? So I do think the of course the role of data engineer is going to evolve, and it's going to probably be more in backstage. We actually talked about that in the meetup yesterday. So with GenBI, you've heard a bit about it.
Yeah, I I had last year or so. I looked at a tool. I don't know what I. Uh, let's first hear your thought. I just
Yeah.
want
So
to hear your thought.
if you like to as of today, if you go like for example like real data, and I'm not affiliated on anyway, it's there's other tool probably that works well, but on the real data, if you jump like a specific set of data, it's going to calculate good metrics already for you, know which metrics matters and which graph, and it's going to show you, and it's a really good start, setup to start. Like there is a dashboard for you to look at it. And then the question is like, oh, have we enabled self-service now? Like anyone can create, and we don't need like BI developers to create dashboard. And during the meetups, of course, the first pushback is, yeah, but does that mean that we're gonna have thousands of dashboard and no single source of truth? So it's gonna be even worse. I think there is an in between. Again, it's like a gray area. So I do feel, for example, those tools is going to help data engineers or analytics engineer to bootstrap quickly a request from dashboard instead of like really calculating the matrix manually, saying, okay, I need a bar chart there to show this. So they're going to have this. It's going to be much faster. And then they're going to say, maybe they're going to plug it to an internal LLM, so that if anyone say, what is the revenue the past 7 days, right? They all have the same notion of what we define as the revenue, and they connect to an internal dashboard, and getting that same value, kind of a semantic layer. But so that's the gray area. It's like anyone can ask the question with just English, but there is like a control of the source of truth. And those Gen BI tools are, increasing productivity for people actually creating the dashboards. But I don't believe like in self-service in the sense like anyone can create dashboards. Otherwise, that's going to just be a data governance nightmare.
Yeah, it's true. It's one thing that I'm unsure is like the trust. Can you really trust what you're getting, what you're presented?
And how do
You,
you basically evaluate that you can trust something? I think it's basically transparency and your own knowledge. If it's a black box and you cannot see anything, then yeah, of course you're not going to trust it. If you can see all the details, all the the reasoning behind, but you don't understand anything because you never learned Python coding whatsoever, then you're also you're also stuck. So I think again, it's like in between. You need to know some basics, and the model needs to be transparent because specific around numbers and so on.
yeah, because like when you think about a BI tool, you click through get together the attributes or the right, and you create your bar chart. It's very clear what you're getting because you
Yes.
know the attributes, you know what to select, you know how it should be calculated, and boom. But because I have tried one, and as I said, it was roughly a year ago or a bit more, where you were not, it was not 100% that you always got the same results
Yeah.
with the same input, and that kind of thing is
Yeah, but again, I think it's like in between. So I think if today I need to bootstrap a dashboard, like you remember the data skills radar I did, I would definitely use that. I would just throw the schema and say, figure out like which metrics and to calculate and what's interesting to see, and then
that's
like
true.
fine tune on a couple of things. But I would not do everything by hand. That's
Yeah.
I think again it's a in between, and I think this is where again it's really dangerous for people that doesn't have knowledge, because then they make the assumption, oh, but yeah, we can just ask questions, we don't need those data engineers. And like they're not overselling, it's just that they lack the technical context, and they make assumptions. So yeah, I think my key takeaway here is like, stay critical on all the things. Don't push back, because I do think if you don't embrace those things, you're gonna be outpaced in a couple of years. So you need to understand how they works and how all people are being productive. But the best way to be productive with AI is to offload some part of your current work um, to AI, and not saying, okay, I'm offloading a part of that used to be done by someone else. That's much more dangerous.
Yeah. What do you think when while we're on this topic? So it's just something comes to my mind because I have done this. Like, I don't know. It's I think it's already 3 weeks ago. I was just for fun, and it's about data modeling.
Yeah.
Right? People always, oh, data modeling super important, and you need to be very good at data modeling and so on. And I had a student project, and I was just thinking like, let's just drop this into. I had all the attributes. Let's just drop this into ChatGPT and say, build me a relational model for this.
Yeah.
Right? Boom. And when you know how to evaluate it, yeah, that's what I would have built. And I was thinking, okay, let's see how a dimensional model would look like for this. Boom, within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, now this was quite easy. Let's think about a document store, like a JSON document. It's immediately there.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a shift going from you have to do everything manual into, okay, it's an important topic. You need to understand how it works, and you need to understand how to evaluate what you're seeing, but you can let stuff like ChatGPT do a lot of work.
Yeah.
Because
And so this is why I think there is still opportunity for tools like, for example, AI for data modeling, where you have a clear visual interface, right? You can change the primary key. You see the impacts maybe on performance, like it's simulate like based on the number of rows of each tables, like basic queries, like, oh, this query is going to be slower, this query is going to be faster, because at the end of the day, you're doing data modeling for so for also performance and simplicity, on the client side. So like all those components that today you're
cool.
gonna do it manually and in your head because you have the knowledge. And this is again where I think it's can be dangerous. People say, "Oh, okay, it works." Yeah, but actually, the model that you define, maybe you should swap the primary key because you have much more rows in that table, and the model don't know that, right? It's like it doesn't know. So there's always a bit of lack of context and etc. And so I think, again, totally agree. You can bootstrap today with this, and I think tomorrow we're gonna have like the dashboard to fine tune those knobs for different use case for data modeling, for example. But yeah, I see, for example, video editing. It's a good analogy. There is a lot of things going on right now where, I've been using some plugins, for example, to detect silence and cut it automatically. There is plugins, to translate and add subtitle. And you could, put, for example, a whole audio file in ChatGPT, say, give me the text. But what you want is to have in a proper dashboard where you need it in your, video editor, where you can change the font, change the color, change the position. And so to that analogy, I think there is a lot of tools like this that we need to be embedded into the data engineering workflow. And today it's mostly people using, to chat and exactly a bit as you define the workflow.
By the way, there are really good tools for video editing. I'm using, for instance, for this podcast, we're using Descript.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. You have that AI feature where you say, okay, especially also sometimes when I record with the teleprompter and
Yeah.
I do something wrong and it removes the duplicates, like says,
Yes.
okay, remove the retakes.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
no.
that
Yeah.
kind that kind I think that kind of stuff is needs to come for features of or for topics that you're working with in data engineering. Um, what exactly is going to be first, I don't know.
But so
But
we've like at Mother Duck, not to make a plug, but we work with we did the fix it stuff, a feature which is basically when you write your query, you run it and it's gonna fix in line. So it's gonna look, so it's really fast. So it's not like executing, it's just like if you have a syntax problem and then it's proposing the fix. So it's really like almost instant. Oh, you put a typo on the column name. And
yeah,
then it's you click accept and it's run, right? So there is no
yeah,
retyping and so on. So
yeah,
like, for example, this feedback experience is really like a AI knob, right? That you put on the work environment IDE. Databricks actually took these features after and implemented. But so the point is, I think those kind of IDE, that's the thing that is going to work really well for specifically data people. It's like embedded in your workflow and not just a chat box. We have enough chat box.
yeah.
We have enough chat box, and it needs to be a proper integration in the user experience.
Yeah. I think also for stuff like observability, it's it's very important to have a bit more AI integrated so that you're basically pointed to exactly what is going on
Yeah.
instead of just getting alarms here and there and watching some charts and
Yeah, indeed. And it's, you need to, for example, if you have a data issue, what the first thing you do is like you look at the actual data, right? So I think, and it should be embedded with your tool. So maybe, on Slack, you have a small button to say, hey, this is the sample of data. So there is like just a question of interface again, I think, rather than just a chat box with some give me the error of the past months, or analyze. You need to visualize and have proper knobs to, I think,
yeah.
works
I
efficiently.
mean, is that just because now we see these chat boxes everywhere that we're automatically trying to build something with chat boxes? You
I
know
think
what
I think that
this
I think the checkbox is basically the first integration of user interactivity with AI. So, and then after, like, to coming back to video editing, because I think video editing is really interesting because they really pick some features like detecting, silence, for example,
yeah.
and then remove them, and then adding subtitle, right? And this probably come from like, okay, we have a model, we could have put the chat box over there, right? But like in the video editing world, like you need to visualize things, so they were forced to kind of like integrate it directly in the products. Throwing a chat box would have not have been really useful, right? And so I think that's the mistake of like developers product, where you had the chatbots to say, okay, just ask your problem. To coming back to Gen AI, Gen BI, which is a term coming back now, it's mostly okay. Instead of like asking the metrics on anything, you give us the data and we'll define the metrics that you can review. And it's a much better workflow than say, talk with my data, right? Okay, but what do I actually ask, right? So I think it's just a natural step forward to um, to get a bit more narrowed down in term of features.
Interesting. Why are you like? Why do you think this whole topic is so important from an engineer's perspective?
I think if you push back AI tools are not getting interested, it's kind of like the same to saying, yeah, I don't need internet. I have books. I have books with like amazing engineers that wrote like fundamental that is still used. Sure, but there is so much happening on the internet. Are you sure you can, afford? That's really about that. It's that I really do believe that in a couple of years there are gonna be people that was curious about those tools. And the problem, again, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should watch every single tool that is there every month and try them out, right? Because a lot of them die, or a lot of them gets really, really better. So, but I think having, an healthy habit to every 3 months reevaluate your tool set and say, hey, maybe this part, not changing everything, but this part could be included within my workflow, right? And would it be improving? Because I feel like if you change everything over every time, then you're just learning new workflow and you're getting, into a paradox where it's just because you have new tools that you're getting slow. So I think finding the right balance, but it's inevitable that you're gonna be you're just gonna be out of the equation compared to people that knows how to use those tools in a couple of years. It's a slow, progression, but I do see it.
And I meant this more about in the direction of Gen BI, not just general.
Yeah, the Gen BI. I think Gen BI, like for example, if you're a data engineer, for example, and you need to explore what's wrong within the data, like you have weird stuff and you don't know the data because you usually, roll mostly on the data platform converting CSV to Parquet, but you need to fix a dashboard. I don't know. Then like just throwing this and saying, okay, what are the metrics? Can you explain to me what are the metrics over there? What does that mean? How this is calculated? So there is a couple of things that you can use, for debugging or just getting your mind around it. And if you need to go to the internal documentation, I'm just posing it there because there is no documentation in general about, data or column or fields or what. So the point is like there are multiple ways to just get some shortcuts, and people are going to use it. And like the quack-to-SQL project, like that I presented at the beginning, I would never have been able to build that if I didn't have AI to help me. I have basic knowledge on front end and React, but not enough to like use the WebGPU stuff with Transformer JS and so on. I know my way around. But I had to bootstrap an ID for April Fool in 2 days. And I did it, right? And 10 people say, wow, they invested so much. No, it's just one guy spending 2 days on this. Yeah.
So it's basically the I think a nice summary would be to know enough to become dangerous.
Exactly.
Right? And then you're fine.
Yeah. No, that's then you're fine. But I just see it like internally within the team. Like some people start to do stuff that they were not able to do technically before. And it's still like fairly good, like because I think they're being a bit more critical about what's being produced, or they're being transparent. They say, okay, this stuff is completely vibe coded, it works, right? Can either someone take it over, or just not do an inspiration, like they're being honest, like doing it, get as an inspiration and push this feature forwards, which I think is great. It's like they're prototyping to show the engineers like, okay, this is working, right? And then like the engineers say, yeah, okay, it's maybe not this way we should do it, but we get the idea, and because it's real, it's working, it's it pushed the idea forward. So again, exactly as you said, enough to be dangerous, and also always being transparent about it. Like, did you vibe code everything? Did you understand everything you've been written? If not, like just say it. It's fine, so that people that gonna review, they know what to expect.
Yeah. So what's on your plate? And before we go, what's on your plate for the future? Like for the next
I
2-3
want
months?
to build this game. I want to build this game. So no, I think I'm gonna focus on a long form course. Actually, again, yet
Cool.
another. So I've been doing a lot of like small to medium size course. Like the longest usually is like 1 hour 30. Um, and now I want really to have a path to build structure. I already did for one small platform, a French platform, actually in French.
Mhm.
And so I just want to do that more. Um, and so yeah, so that's one thing that would be probably SQL, DuckDB, mother duck stuff. But I do want to do on personal stuff if I get the time. But the learning game, is really attracting me to do something. So I'm just
Mm.
like bouncing idea. I might bounce it back to you once I have something.
Sure.
But but I think the long story short is that, and I think like because of the AI stuff, there is just opportunities that's come, and that's much more doable for me in short term. So um, so let's see what I could build.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you're coming up with because like you always have these interesting projects on these interesting topics. So
Yeah, I think AI is really great for me because I'm I'm good enough to be dangerous, but I have crazy ideas, and I think there is a lot of really good person non-technical that have good ideas but are not technical enough. So I think it's really the right spot at the moment for me, and I feel like if I miss the opportunity, like in 1 year, there's gonna be much more people. So it's like it's the right time. You see, I feel like also like if you've been using AI like a year ago, like really actively, you could be ahead of a lot of people. It's much
mm,
harder, but yeah, as soon as it gets easier, you get much more competition and people doing it.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, I was just thinking while you said it, it came to my mind like wasn't it Steve Jobs who said like that the or somebody said like having an idea is good, but you need to actually execute it,
Oh
otherwise
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
worthless,
That's the
right?
execute. But and now and actually, I don't know in which podcast I heard that. People say that because of AI, it's kind of flipping now
Mm,
because the execution for some part of it is clear, right? So, for example, if you're doing a landing page on a product, it's clear what ID, what makes unique your landing page, right? So that's having good taste on things. I think that's gonna
that's true.
matter much more than it used to be. Not for everything. Like the execution is not just you. If you build a company, it's like how you operate your team and so on. It's much more to that to the execution, but there is still like a part of execution which is not predictable and kind of like, okay, that's how it's gonna be done. But then ID and taste is gonna matter a bit more.
That is so true, because I've been trying to, or in February, January, February, we were rebuilding the website a bit and trying to make the academy website a bit nicer and a bit more clearer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to do this with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible because this thing has no feel for what should be there, what
Yeah.
like it can tell you, it can make something better that you have, like you have a few bullets and the information on the bullets is clear but maybe the text isn't good.
Yeah.
It can optimize this, but it cannot tell you, okay, now you need this element for your product and you need that content.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No, no, but again, I think it's just a matter of time to have enough context and say, oh, okay, it's learn dataengineering.com and you're doing this and this is your brand, this is your style. So, but as of today, it's still like you need to kind of tell him what is your style, and it's pretty hard, and you still need to
Yeah.
again to have like a good taste no matter
Yeah.
what you're doing.
There's this Rick Rubin thing, like I have no technical abilities, but I'm like but I know my taste. And do you know this? This one. There's this. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
Like Rick Rubin, the music producer, like he gave an interview and he says like he said to the interview like I have no technical abilities. I know
Ah, yeah,
nothing
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
music.
This meme, yeah. Of course, it just is. Yeah, no, and it's being used by a lot of vibe coders. I think it's true. Like there is
Yeah,
there is really stuff that is true. Now it's the question is how do you know not making enough because like sometimes ChatGPT can just be a bit boring on some stuff.
true.
Or would it be written or a web page? So how do you make it interesting? I think you still need uh, to be a bit creative. But yeah, there is a lot of opportunity for people with good imagination.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started with engineering. We started with going to meetups, and we ended on on AI. We ended on
Of course, we
being
always
creative.
ending up on AI. That's the key takeaway, right? It's like,
Yeah. It was awesome talking with you
yeah,
about these topics. We should
thank
do this
you.
again.
Sure. And
Um,
maybe it's you that's getting on the question from me mostly.
sure, sure. And then we can do this the other way around next time.
Yeah, yeah. We'll flip the
Okay.
script.
Yeah. Cool. So
Thank
then,
you.
thank you for being here. And then we see each other next time.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.